I think it's March 26th, 2017. I'm Bob Downs, and I'm talking to Bob Addison. And we're in his home. And are you're Portal? You consider Portal address?
Yes.
Okay. And Bob, I think what I want to do is just ask you some questions about when you first came to Portal and how you got here.
Yeah.
So when did you first come to Portal, and how did you end up here?
Our first trip to Portal was about 1986. And we had been spending, my wife was still alive, of course, then, but my wife and I we'd been spending some winters down in South Texas, down close to Harlingen.
Oh, okay.
Harlingen, Texas, not too far from Brownsville. And during the time that we were down there, we traveled around the countryside and to see the scenery, and we were birders anyway, and so we picked up this book. It told about the 12 best birding spots in the country, and one of them was Portal.
Ah.
And so we decided to come up here and see what it was like. So we stayed overnight up in South Fork.
Were you camping?
We were camping. We camped overnight. Oh, I guess 2 or 3 nights there. And that's what started it all. And so we liked it. And so each winter thereafter, we would come for short visits. We'd stayed a week, then we stayed 2 weeks. And then we decided that we'd come here, spend our winters here, and that's what we did. And we've stayed at a number of different places here in Portal.
Let me stop you for a second. And where were you living? Where was home?
It was New Hampshire.
Oh, New Hampshire. What town in New Hampshire was
It
it?
was, my memory is not as good as it used to be, but...
That's okay. So it's New...
I was where Durham, New Hampshire, which is close to Portsmouth and Dover.
Yep. So you guys had a long drive then. You'd come down here.
It's about 2,700 miles.
Yeah.
So we would come down in the fall and go back in the spring.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, we stayed at various places. We stayed at Mary Willie's.
Yeah.
And we stayed at, I can't remember all of them. We stayed at Hard Topoff's place.
Yeah.
And we stayed up on top of the mountain.
Oh.
Charlie, what's his name? Charlie.
This was a rental place.
Yeah, we rented these places.
Oh.
Well, we stayed at about 4 or 5 different places anyway.
Yeah.
Spent the winters.
Yeah.
Never a whole winter at the same place.
Yeah. So you would move from place to place.
What?
You would move from a few places during the course of the winter.
Yeah.
That's what my in-laws, the Wadsworth, did too.
Well, the place that we stayed was Charlie Travers' place up on the top of the hill. on up the top of the hill above where Myrtle Craft used to live.
Yeah. What was his name again? Charlie
Charlie Travers.
Travers. Huh.
Yeah.
Huh. So during the winters when you were coming down, do you have any memories, fond memories, or funny things that happened, or people you met? Or?
Nothing special, but we got acquainted with quite a few people while we were down here. And I guess the place that we liked the best of all was Mary Willie's guest house.
Yeah.
We got very well acquainted with Mary Willie and Mary and Bill.
Yeah.
And we ate at their place quite often, and we got acquainted with Bob and O'Leary Squire.
Right.
Let's see, what's Fagan's?
Oh.
Penny Johnson.
Yeah.
We knew them very well.
Yeah.
And
Was it
the Cutlers? Cutlers used to live in the house that's just west of, or it'd be south, I guess, southwest. The first house on up the road from where the library is.
right? Yeah.
We got acquainted. In fact, we had a little group that would get together probably, every month or so,
For
different places.
for dinner, socially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Social.
Was it Fagan? Was it Marge Fagan? No.
Oh, I knew the Fagan, Marge and Bob.
Marge and Bob.
I knew them very well.
Yeah.
We're trying to think. And well, anyway, the upshot was that we kept coming back, and so we decided finally to move here, and so we had this house built.
What year was that?
1995.
Okay, 1995.
Yeah, we lived here from 1995 up to now.
You want to describe where your house is so that people, how do you get here? Where are we from Portal?
Well, this house is just about halfway between Portal and Rodeo.
Yeah.
On the west side of the Portal Road, and we're about just a mile back in to the west, or southwest of Portal Road.
And how much acreage do you have here?
Well, it's approximately 76, 78.
Oh, wow.
Those parcels, or this land was all laid out in parcels
Yeah.
of about, it'd be, am I right? Yeah, it'd be about 35, 40 acres each one.
Yeah.
It should be 80, but it's each parcel is about 35, 40 acres.
Yeah.
And we have two parcels, including where the house sits, and the house sits on about 4 acres that's fenced in.
Yeah. Was there, when you come out today, it's about a mile off the road, and you have one neighbor. Were you the first people out here?
That house has only been there probably, I'd say 5, 6 years.
Yeah.
That mobile home down there.
So you've been the only place out here
But we were the only ones who lived on this road.
Why did you buy out here? I'm just curious.
Well, we looked around, and the people that had owned it before had they were undoubtedly they lived in a mobile trailer of some kind. They had a well, septic system.
Oh.
And that was an enticement for us.
Yeah.
And so we had and the well house was already installed.
Yeah.
So that part of it was done, and that was attractive, and
Yeah.
so we decided to move here. And we like to be somewhat isolated anyway, you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that's the reason we came here.
Yeah. Who did you have build the house?
You know, I can't remember. I'd have to look. I'd have to get back to you to tell
Sure.
you the exact people that built it.
Yeah.
But they're a company that built houses all over the United States,
Oh.
and they've built. I know of about 2 other houses that have been built.
Out in this
that
area.
these people built.
Huh. Huh.
And but
Yeah.
anyway, this company had built
Yeah.
one house up in very close to Cave Creek,
Yeah.
and they built one over on the hill, over on the Palancios too.
Oh. Yeah. And so 1995 you moved here full time then?
Yeah,
So year round.
right.
Yeah. And how was it when you first moved in, or were there any unusual things that happened being out here, or?
No, the worst thing that happened to us shortly after we moved here, my wife started downhill. She had polymyositis.
Oh, I don't know what that is. That sounds like
Polymyositis, polymyositis.
it's a muscle thing.
You know what? No,
No.
it's muscle. You know what MS is?
Yes.
Which attacks nerves.
Yes.
Polymyositis attacks the muscles.
Oh.
They don't have any, I don't think they know exactly what causes it, and they don't have any cure for it. So, Jean, my wife, started downhill pretty much, and from there it just progressively got worse.
Yeah.
And she, let's see, I guess I put her in a nursing home. I can't tell you the exact date, but she was in a nursing home in Lordsburg, Arizona, or Lordsburg, New Mexico for, I guess mostly 8 or 10 years. And then finally I moved her down to the nursing home in Douglas.
Yeah.
And she lived until, in fact, she just passed away this last May.
I didn't know
May the
that.
2nd of this last year.
Yeah, so it's coming up on a year then.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry to hear that. But did you guys have a number of years that you got to live here before she?
Yeah. We lived here a few years, and we decided to move up to Maine.
Oh.
We were in an assisted living place, you'd call it.
Yeah.
And we moved up to Maine for just a year, and we still own this house, and we rented it, and so we decided that we liked Arizona better.
Now wait, I gotta slow you down. Why Maine? Do you have children there?
My oldest daughter.
Oh.
Yeah, we have children in Maine, New Hampshire, and Connecticut,
Okay.
and so my oldest daughter lived in Maine, and so we found this place, and we lived there just a year. That was, let's see, October 2003 to October 2004.
And I bet, I'm gonna guess, your kids thought this is a good idea, you'll move closer to one
Oh, they bugged us to come back to
yeah.
New England. They were, well, some of them were born in New England, a couple of them, but
Yeah.
my Army career, we lived all over the country, but I think two of my daughters, one daughter was born in Kansas,
Huh.
and one daughter was born in Ohio.
Huh.
In fact, two daughters were born in Ohio. That's where my wife was born and raised, in Ohio. And one daughter was born in New Hampshire.
Huh. So, you guys went to Maine, you didn't stay very long.
Just a year.
How come? Did you miss it here, or what?
We liked it here better than we did in Maine.
What did you miss, or what brought you back to Portland?
Well, we liked the outdoors, and we liked the view, the mountains, and we didn't especially enjoy the winters in Maine.
I know, I'm from Minnesota.
That was in Portland.
Yeah.
Portland, Maine.
Yeah, and so the winters, I understand. And you look out, what is your view here? What's the mountain?
The mountains back here, right?
Yeah.
I had that porch put on,
Yeah.
and the roof comes down.
Yeah.
And I had the roof on the porch slants up that way,
So you can see.
so we can sit in the living room and I can look out and see the mountains.
I'd like to see that when we're done with this.
Yeah, and I could sit right here at the table when I eat
Yeah.
my meals, and I can see the mountains too.
Yeah. That must be something to. Anyway, you came back from Maine. You wanted to be out here in nature. Wanted to view.
Birding too was a big thing. My wife was a good birder. In fact, she used to keep a list. We went on our way from here back to New Hampshire, several years there that we just traveled down here before we moved, and she kept a list of the birds that we would see on our travels, both from here back home, and also when we were down in Texas.
Yeah.
She kept a list. I guess I was just looking at that not long ago, and I think we had probably over 100 that we could see on our way from here to.
Just on the trip.
Yeah,
The
just
trip.
on a trip.
Oh. So when you guys got back to Portal, were you happy, relieved, or was it good to see people, or what do you?
Oh, we got acquainted with quite a few people here, and we liked it here.
That's what I wondered. Yeah.
And people were friendly. You know what? I don't know whether you are from a big town or a little town or what, but
Suburbs.
if you live like in Portland, Maine, in that not a rest home,
Assisted living.
assisted living place. Well, you get acquainted with a few people, but not very close. But here, it seems like the people were friendly, and we just liked it here.
Yeah.
Aside from that, while I was here, I was a volunteer librarian
Well, I didn't know that.
once a week for several years, for quite a few years there.
Yeah.
And I got to know practically everybody in Portal at that time. I got to know most everybody because of contacts through the library,
Yeah.
And I liked that.
Yeah. Yeah, there is a.
But
Go ahead.
But there's been a big change since we moved here in terms of the people. People near my age, people in the 80s and 90s, and that we knew back then, there are hardly any of them left.
I know, that's one of the reasons actually why, because my father-in-law, as you know, Don died this fall, and I got to thinking of the names, including you and other people, Mary Willie and O'Leary has died. I got to thinking there was a group of people we're losing, and it's sad to see people going.
Yeah, the Cullers passed away, both of them. It was O'Leary and Bob Squire, they passed away. Penny Johnson, she passed away. Well, the two that I remember the most was just Delane and the writer,
Jeannie Williams?
Jean Williams. She's a very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
I've known them, and they're the oldest ones that I know of, and
Still living.
yeah, they're practically all of them are gone.
Yeah.
See, I'm 99,
I know that.
and my memory was never all that great, but my memory has
Yeah.
taken a beating in the last few years, and
Yeah.
it's getting worse all the
Yeah,
time.
yeah.
And I try to come up with names, and it's embarrassing.
I understand that, but on the other hand, I think people appreciate that. I'm 62 and I lose names, and to think, well, will I still be here at 99? I don't think so, but so actually, as long as you brought it up, do you have anything to say? 99's pretty remarkable. When's your birthday?
The 8th of September.
Okay, September 8th. Do you?
So I don't know whether I never know from one day to the next.
Yeah.
But
Well, what advice would you give us young folks?
What?
What advice would you give us young folks to say about how to make it to 99?
Well, take it one day at a time,
Yeah.
and keep a good outlook on life. I'd say be optimistic as much as you can, and if you have some good friends, keep in contact with good friends. I don't know.
That's great advice. Did your optimism? Did you feel like you had that your whole life, or is that something you learned?
Yeah, I have been. I guess I've been pretty lucky because I was born and raised in the mountains in Virginia.
Oh, I'm from Virginia.
What?
Where I'm from Virginia. Where are you from in Virginia?
Southwestern
Oh,
part down Grundy, Buchanan County.
yeah. See, I grew up outside of Washington D.C., so
did?
yeah, whole other part of Virginia.
Yeah, we used to call that East Virginia.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, the county I grew up in adjoined West Virginia
Yeah.
on the west.
Yeah. So,
Not too far from Bluefield.
okay, I don't know that.
It was coal country
Yeah, I knew that.
all around us until we moved. We moved to Ohio in about 1931, I guess. But the big coal companies hadn't come into my county in Virginia. But since we moved away, it's that county itself, Buchanan County, coal was the big thing.
Yeah.
Not only drift mines, deep mines, they had scalped off the tops of the mountains, and creeks that I used to go fishing in, and
Mm-hmm.
play in the creek,
Yeah, sad to,
turned black.
yeah, sad to see.
Yeah.
Huh. What did your dad do?
He was a carpenter,
Oh,
and a carpenter, but living in the mountains, we pretty well grew most of our food. You had to, because it was, well, it was about 18 mile, 20 mile to the nearest little village to where you would do any shopping, but the only shopping we would do would get staples like kerosene for lamps and eggs.
maybe flour.
Although our eggs, I guess we always kept lots of chickens and
Mm.
sold some eggs too. It was a tough life, but I didn't even know, I guess, that there was a depression.
Mm. Because for you, where you were living,
Well,
you,
it didn't make any effect on us because we
Yeah.
didn't have much in the first place. Didn't make any, really didn't affect us in any way as far as I could see.